Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Lollipop and today I'm going to be answering a question that I've gotten so many times on my channel. It's probably the most asked question I've ever received in the comment section, and that is, can you install an internal dropper post on a Trek Marlin bike such as this? Now, unfortunately, this question does not have a simple yes or no answer, which is why I decided to make an entire video explaining it, but I promise I'll be quick. And before I begin, I actually have to reveal a new bike that I bought. I would make a whole reveal video on this bike, but I'm sure you're gonna get sick of them if I keep making them every week. So with that, here's my reveal. Okay, big reveal, 3, 2, 1. Boom! It's another Marlin! This is actually a 2019 Trek Marlin 7. And it's actually going to help us a lot with this video, but that's not the only reason I bought it. I actually got it on Mother's Day from my mom because she really wanted to start riding around with me, but let's get back to the video. I decided to just make an entire video on this topic to officially clear up any confusion and tell you guys the answer, as well as showing you some examples on the bikes that I have, including this Trek Marlin 7 now. So if this video does help you out in any way, please leave a like and subscribe. It definitely helps out the channel. But without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So real quick, if you do not know what a dropper post is, it looks like this. So in a normal bike without a dropper post, the seat and seat posts are just like one fixed piece right there, and it kind of ends up looking just like this. So you have a rigid seat post that just holds the seat on the top, and you just stick it in the seat tube and you can just change the height manually. But a dropper post, it looks similar, but this section of the post will actually go up and down, and it is controlled by a lever on the handlebar. So when you push this lever down and then press on the seat, it'll actually move up and down. And the whole reason for this is that you can get some better balance and weight distribution on your bike when you're riding on really rough terrain, and you can kind of have a lower center of gravity so you don't fall off your bike as easily. And before getting into internal dropper posts, I will mention that you can install an external dropper post on any Trek Marlin bike, because the way external dropper posts work, I'll show a picture of one on the screen since I don't have one with me. But basically how they work is you'll kind of just replace your normal seat post with the external dropper post, and it'll have a cable running right here that you can basically just attach to the top tube of your bike, just zip tie it on or something like that. And then it'll run right to your handlebar where the dropper post lever should go. And it's perfectly fine. And you can install an external dropper post on any Trek Marlin bike, or basically any single bike ever, because it just runs along the top tube of the frame, and any bike that has, you know, a seat tube and a handlebar will be able to be compatible with one of those external dropper posts. An internal dropper post, however, looks more like this, where you cannot see the cable at all. So as you can see, there's no cable running along the top tube of this bike. It's all internal. The cable actually starts like kind of down here, runs throughout the seat tube of the bike, goes down here, and then it'll kind of come around and stay internal right here until it finally comes out up here. And then that's the cable, runs all the way and attaches to the lever right here, so you can pull it and the dropper post will go up and down. And overall, it just gives the bike a nice cleaner look, and it protects the cables, so it's kind of good to have. So now I'm going to go year by year explaining which Marlin bikes can accept a dropper post and which ones cannot, starting with the 2019 models. So in front of me here, I have the 2019 Trek Marlin 7. Now the Marlin frames for each specific year are shared among all the bikes. So the 2019 Trek Marlin 5, 6, and 7 all share the same frame, and this information will apply to all of those. Now these bikes have internal cable routing, so you can see the cables kind of coming out of the frame right here in these top two holes. There is a hole on the other side as well. Let me turn around. So there is a spare hole on the other side that is not being used, and that is actually for the dropper post cable itself to come out and then attach onto the handlebar right there. So that's one really good way to check to see if your bike is internal dropper post compatible, if it has that hole on the top of the frame. But the more important thing to check for is the hole in the back of the seat tube. So on every single 2019 Trek Marlin frame, you will see this seat tube hole, which is specifically for the dropper post cable to come out of. So what happens is when you install a dropper post, you put it right here in place of the normal seat post. It goes here, the cable comes through the seat tube internally, it's inside of there, and then it'll actually pop out of here so it can wrap around the frame down here, and it'll kind of come, you can see these other cables also going through this little slot here in the down tube. So it'll come around the frame, go inside here, go all the way up up into that hole on the other side, and then pop out so you can attach it onto the handlebar right here and use it as a dropper post lever. Therefore, every single Trek Marlin bike from 2019 is 100% internal dropper post compatible. You can install a dropper post on this bike internally or externally if you wish. Okay, so now let's talk about the Marlin frames from 2020, 2021, and 2022. So the frames on these recent model years are actually all the same, but here's where people get confused. If you take a look at my 2020 Trek Marlin 5, so you can clearly see that there is a hole on the top of the frame, just like on the 2019 Trek Marlin 7, for an internal dropper post, making you think that it is internal dropper post compatible. But remember, there's one more hole we need to check for to make sure that this bike is internal dropper post compatible, and that is the hole in the seat tube. And if you look on any Marlin frame from 2020, 2021, 2022, they're all the same. None of them will have a hole in the seat tube right there, which means you cannot install an internal dropper post on these bikes. Okay, so now you're probably thinking the video's over, I told you the answer, but there are some workaround options if you want to get creative. You can actually get an external dropper post and route it half externally. So since the cable cannot, go internally and come out some hole on the bottom and wrap around, what you can do is get an external dropper post and the cable will just run alongside here. As long as the cable is long enough, you have to make sure of that. But you'll just run it along here and then kind of slide it through here. And then you can go up and wrap it in that same slot in the down tube right there. So then it's going to be internal through the down tube, but it'll be external on the seat tube. So it'll be like a half internal right there and then half external look. You just got to make sure your cable's long enough to do that, since sometimes most of the time the dropper posts with external cables are meant to just go along the top tube, so you don't really need a lot of cable. But in that method you would need a lot more, but it could work. I've seen people do it, and it is an option if you want a little bit of a cleaner look. Now there is one other option which I definitely do not recommend, since it will void the warranty on your frame and potentially cause a lot of damage to your frame, which is just to drill a hole exactly where the 2019 model's frame had a hole for the internal dropper post cable to come out of. You could do that. It will void your warranty, so you'll no longer have a warranty on the bike, and it might cause some damage to your frame depending on how you drill it. Once again, I do not recommend that at all, so definitely don't try that, but I just figured I'd mention that since some people have talked about that and you could do it theoretically. All right, now I know some of you avid bike mechanics in the comment section are going to say something like, maybe you could try taking out the crankset and the bottom bracket and routing the cable that way, since you can do that on some bikes for internal dropper posts. But unfortunately, we did try this at Trek Bicycle Sacramento where I work. We tried it on a 2020 Trek Marlin 7 and it did not work. There was not enough space for it to actually go through that bottom bracket and still allow the bottom bracket to go back inside. So unfortunately, that is not an option. All right, so ultimately you only have three main options for installing a dropper post on a Trek Marlin bike. Either one, you just get an external dropper post and run it along the top tube and it totally works completely fine. Or B, you get an external dropper post and you route it half externally along the seat tube and then half internally inside of the down tube of the frame here. Or option C, you drill a hole in the seat tube back here, which will void your warranty and cause structural damage to the frame, but that will allow you to route it fully internally. It's not recommended, don't do that please, but I just figured I'd say it because somebody could do it. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope that cleared up all of the questions you had and hope it just helped you out in general. If it did, please leave a like and subscribe, and definitely leave any comments or other questions that I might have missed in the comment section below, and I promise I'll try to answer all of them if I know the answer. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to keep biking.